All right, everybody, we are back this week for UFC Vegas. Bautista versus Oliveira, live from the UFC Apex. It is now at the Meta Apex. They've made some adjustments. They're going to allow more fans, and this fight card is going to take place Saturday, February 7th. Like I said, from the Meta Apex with a main event in the bantamweight division between the number 9 ranked Mario Bautista, coming off of that decision loss to what's his name? I can't even think of it. Umar Nurmagomedov, taking on Vinicius Loke Dog Oliveira, ranked number 11 in the bantamweight division. And in the co-main event, you have a battle between flyweights in the number 6 ranked Amir Albazi, taking on the number 8 ranked returning Kyoji Horiguchi, who made his UFC return in his last fight on the UFC Fight Night Hooker versus Sarukian, and was able to come out with I believe it was a second round submission due to a rear naked choke to Tagir Ulanbekov. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, so for the first fight up, we've got a battle in the bantamweight division between Muin Gafurov taking on the returning Jacob Wiklacz. I believe that's how you say his name. He made his UFC debut by defeating the former bantamweight champion in Bellator, and I believe he was a champion in Ryzen. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But, the big UFC signing who went 0-2 and is no longer in the UFC in Patchy Mix. So, Gafurov versus Wiklacz. I think Gafurov has a pretty big advantage in terms of the striking. He's got a pretty good jab, a good 1-2, and he kind of wings his punches. Like, there's big left hooks, big overhands, big uppercuts. And I feel like he has enough power to really hurt Jacob Wiklacz. Like, I think Wiklacz is really good on the ground. He's got good takedowns. He's good off of his back. He can use butterfly sweeps. He can use the single guard sweeps and try to get on top. He can throw up submissions. And when he's on top, he can look for submissions as well. He loves to kind of sell out for the guillotine. And, we have seen Gafurov get caught with a guillotine before. He got caught with a guillotine by, I believe it was Saeed Nurmagomedov early in his UFC career. He got just hit off the break early on in the fight, and then tried to shoot a takedown and got caught with a ninja choke. I believe it was more of a ninja choke than a guillotine front choke series, etc., etc. I think Gafurov has much better striking. It might not look technically the cleanest, but he hits really hard. He throws awkward combinations, and he was able to hurt Rinya Nakamura, who I believe is a pretty solid prospect in the division. And I don't know why, but I thought Rinya Nakamura was a flyweight, but I think he's a bantamweight, so I could just be messing myself up in my own head right now. But for this fight, I think it's going to be close, man. I think that this should be a pick'em. I think the odds are correct. I think Wiklacz has a pretty big advantage on the ground. I don't think he has too much to offer on the feet, aside from if they get into clinch exchanges. I think maybe he could land some elbows over the top, some uppercuts and some knees inside the clinch to then push Gafurov up against the cage and look to exploit his wrestling defense. But I think Gafurov is better on the feet. I think that he lands the better punches. I think he hits with more power. I think he puts combinations together better. And I think this is going to really be the case of, can Wiklacz get in on the hips of Gafurov and slow him down and get on top, beat him up with ground and pound and submit him? Can he win the rounds based off grappling, positioning, and control and going for submissions but maybe not getting them? Or is the grappling and submissions just going to slow down Wiklacz to where when we get into those later rounds, the striking of Gafurov is going to look better? He's going to land those overhands, those uppercuts, those windmill-type punches, and maybe some kicks and knees up the middle to where he can hurt Wiklacz and then either finish him late or win via decision. At the end of the day, I think it is a close fight. I think that this comes down to who can implement their game plan, which, oh my God, groundbreaking information I'm giving out here. But I think this comes down to a 50-50 fight, and it could be a split decision, just like Wiklacz last fight against Patchy Mix. I'm going to take Gafurov. I think Gafurov wins this one by doing just more damage and having more output on the feet over the 15 minutes. So give me Muin Gafurov. Give me Gafurov to win 29-28 split decision. All right, next fight up is in the bantamweight division. You got a battle between Javid Basharat taking on Said Nurmagomedov. Again, man, a close fight here, a good fight. I think that Javid is the better minute winner. Okay, like he's going to use his jab, he's going to use his fakes, he's going to use his footwork, and he's going to dance around the cage. I think the jabs, circling with the jabs to set up the right hand, and then just pot-shotting that right hand while circling off, that's going to be a big weapon when we get into the later portions of the fight. I think the late portions of the second and into the third round is where Javid Basharat is going to kind of just break down Said, because we know Nurmagomedov doesn't have the best cardio when we get into those later portions of fights, and we know that if he's going to slow down, he's usually going to slow down in the last minute and a half of the second round, and then going into the third, he's probably going to be pretty slow in general, just because he's so explosive and fast twitch. A lot of the game of Nurmagomedov is fast twitch explosiveness, and then making his opponent shoot takedowns based off the pressure and just the variety of attack that he has, and then potentially locking up a submission because the opponent makes a mistake in when they shoot their takedowns. So I think that this fight is close. I understand why Said is the underdog, but I'm pretty sure it's basically a pick'em on the line for either side, and it makes sense. I think Javid is just a little bit too sharp for a guy like Said. I know he got knocked out by Ricky Simone. He was winning that fight. He was winning that fight pretty clearly. He just circled into the right hand and got knocked out. Is that going to make Javid, more tentative and more gun-shy because he got knocked out so viciously, and we hadn't really seen that before in his UFC career? I think Javid is going to use his grappling pretty well in this fight. He's going to have to look out for the front chokes. Like I said, he's going to have to look out for how he shoots his takedowns as well, because he doesn't want to shoot takedowns and leave his neck out there to potentially get wrapped up in a front choke, a ninja choke, a guillotine, etc. I think Said has great kicks. He's really good off that lead leg, like some of the Nurmagomedovs are. Lead leg question mark kick, lead leg round kick, good front kicks to the body. He's got good knees, a good 1-2. Like, this kid is very dangerous. But I think if Javid can get into the mid portion of the second round and into the third round, that's where I think he can take over and potentially start to wear down Said, take him down, beat him up, and I think eventually get him out of there, man. I think Javid wins in the third round and probably does so via submission. It's going to be a mainly striking matchup, but I think once Javid starts to get the timing and the range and sees that Said, the explosiveness isn't as dangerous, and the danger factor has kind of shrunk compared to the beginning of the fight, I think that's where you're going to see Javid look to use his grappling, take down Said, and try to beat him up. I don't think it's going to be easy to get him down, but I think in the third round, just like we saw against Vinicius Oliveira, he will slow down, and he really doesn't have too much to offer when we get from that 10 to the 15-minute mark in a 3-round fight. So I'm going to say Javid and Said is close for the first 8 or 9 minutes, and then you start to see Said slow down. Javid starting to pump him with the jab, pop him with the 1-2, pop him with the 1-2 level change takedown. He starts to use his wrestling in the third round, and I'm going to say Javid Basharat gets a third-round submission. So give me Javid Basharat to defeat Said Nurmagomedov. I'm going to say he wins via third-round arm triangle choke submission and gets a finish in his UFC career. All right, up next is in the women's strawweight division. You got a battle between Ketlin Souza, 15-6, taking on Bruna Brasil, coming in 11-5-1. Bruna Brasil got a win on the road to UFC. She looked good doing it. She won by decision. I think Bruna Brasil is a girl where she'll look really good in some fights and just really bad in others. With Ketlin Souza, she has good submissions. She has the power to hurt Bruna Brasil on the feet. She can close the distance and land big shots, but it's really the length and reach disadvantage that it comes down to. I know on paper it only says a 65.5-inch reach to a 63-inch reach, but Bruna Brasil uses her length a lot better than Ketlin Souza. She's going to be popping the jab. She's going to be circling with the jab, popping the 1-2 down the middle, pulling, countering with the cross, landing good front kicks to the body, landing good calf kicks. And, she has okay jiu-jitsu and okay wrestling. I think if Ketlin Souza takes her down, though, she's going to be at a disadvantage off of her back with a girl who hits as hard as Ketlin Souza. Souza's got a lot of power. She can hurt you with one shot on the feet. We saw her drop Yasmin Uruguay, hurt her with a big shot, and then jump on her neck and submit her. This girl is a girl who could be losing the entire fight and then jump on you and submit you, or rock you, knock you down, and then submit you. I think Bruna Brasil, the length is going to be a big thing in terms of winning the fight via decision. It's just more the fact of, do you see a finish coming in this fight, or do you think it goes to a decision? Because I think more times than not, if the fight goes the distance, I would lean towards Bruna Brasil because she knows how to use that length. She knows how to pop that jab, throw the 1-2, counter off the back foot with the right hand. She has decent kicks, and her takedown defense is okay. But when you get into that, is it going to be a finish? If it's going to be a finish, I would almost put all my chips on the table for Ketlin Souza because she could be losing the rounds and then land a big shot and knock the opponent down. She could hurt Bruna Brasil. Brasil could shoot a panic takedown and get wrapped up in a guillotine. I mean, there's so many different things where Brasil could be even a minus 700, and then boom, she gets hit with a left hook, she gets knocked down. Boom, she gets hit with a right hand, she gets knocked out. And it could happen at any time. So in terms of a pick, it's just, do you think Brasil can stay safe and execute a good game plan? Or do you think Ketlin Souza is going to eventually find the chin and break her down at one point in the 15-minute fight? I think this fight's a coin flip. I don't know the odds off the top of my head, but I'm going to go with the more consistent fighter, and I'm going to take Ketlin Souza. I'm going to take her by submission. I think she hurts Bruna Brasil at some point past the mid portion of the second round. I'll say around like 9 minutes, 8.5, 9 minutes into the second round. I think she hurts her. I think Brasil tries to tie up to get a takedown, and she gets caught in a guillotine and gets submitted or choked unconscious. So I'm going to take Ketlin Souza. I'm going to take Souza by submission. But again, if Brasil is the one dictating the range and keeping her at the distance that she needs to, then I think Brasil can look really good and just start to pick her apart and poke and prod and not allow Ketlin Souza to close the distance. So if we're betting, I would just stay away from it. But from a pick perspective, I'm going to take Ketlin Souza to find a submission in the second round via a club and sub. She rocks her, drops her, or forces her to shoot, and she wraps up that guillotine choke. So give me Ketlin Souza, second round guillotine choke submission. All right, next fight up, we got a battle in the welterweight division between Nikolai Veretennikov taking on Nico the Hybrid Price. I'm going to keep this one short. I'm going to take Veretennikov by knockout. I like Nico Price, don't get me wrong. Like, the kid comes forward, he throws awkward combinations, he's always looking for a finish, but I don't trust his chin, I don't trust his durability, and Veretennikov was able to survive against Punahele Soriano and make it the full distance. I think that he's clean enough and sharp enough to eventually find the chin of Nico Price. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they got into an exchange and Veretennikov just got clipped. But his striking isn't bad. He doesn't have much grappling off of his back. He can get takedowns. He's okay from the top, but he really has no defensive grappling and not too much defense off of his back. He's kind of just a fish out of water. So I think Nico Price would actually be kind of smart to look to pull guard here. I wouldn't recommend pulling guard in an MMA fight because you're just leaving yourself open to get hit with elbows and hammer fists from the top. But I think if Nico Price pulls guard against Veretennikov, he could potentially find his way into working the leg lock game with the Ashigarami, the X guard, or he could look to sweep off the bottom and land some big shots, or, knock people out from the bottom, because Nico Price has good power off of his back with up kicks that he knocked out James Vick with, hammer fists off of his back. I mean, he's got a lot of power that he can generate. Based on the fact that this is short notice, though, I think I got to go with Nikolai Veretennikov. Do I think the guy's amazing? No. Do I think he's going to be a top contender in the UFC? No. But I think he has enough power and technicality to beat Nico Price and probably finish him. So I'm going to say Veretennikov keeps it on the feet, lands some good stabbing front kicks to the body, uses the jab and the check hook, and eventually just finds a home for that right hand, or if he switches stances, find a home for one of those straight punches down the middle, hurts Nico Price, and finishes him off. So I'm going to take Veretennikov round 2 TKO. I like him here against Price. I wouldn't trust Price on a full camp, let alone coming in on short notice. But yeah, I think Veretennikov is just a little bit too sharp for Nico Price on the feet, and he could easily make a mistake and get taken down and do things along those lines. Get caught in a submission, get hit from the bottom and knocked out. Listen, I don't think Veretennikov's that good, but I think he's good enough to beat Nico Price. So give me Nikolai Veretennikov. I'm going to take him by a round 2 TKO. I think he catches him with a straight right, hurts him, jumps on him, and finishes him off. All right, up next, we got a battle in the welterweight division between Alex Morono taking on Daniil Donchenko. Again, this will be a pretty short one. I like Donchenko by KO, and Donchenko by KO in the first 2 rounds. I think he's going to beat the brakes off Alex Morono. Morono's really only win equity is to win this fight by decision. And do I think he can survive for 15 minutes against a striker with the power and technical skills of a Donchenko? Nope, absolutely not. So I'm going to take Daniil Donchenko. I think he just eventually walks him down, lands big uppercuts, knees, elbows in the clinch. I think he hurts him with a shot in the first round, puts Morono up against the cage and just tees off on him. I think it looks pretty similar to the Carlos Leal fight. I got to be honest with you. I think Donchenko is more dangerous than Leal. He probably just doesn't have as much power, but he has more variety in his striking. Knees, elbows, up elbows, head kicks, kicks to the body. He can really mix it up and do whatever he wants. So unless Donchenko lays an egg and gets just picked apart from range, I don't see that happening. I don't see Morono taking him down and laying on top of him. And I don't see Moreno being able to pull off a submission. So I think Donchenko wins. I think he closes that distance, puts the pressure on, hurts Alex Morono with a big shot, and finishes him in round 1. So give me Daniil Donchenko to unload a vicious combination up against the cage and put Morono down in the first round. My pick is Daniil Donchenko, round 1 knockout. All right, next fight up is in the light heavyweight division. You got a battle between Dustin the Hanyak Jacoby taking on Julius Walker. This is a tough one, man, because I think Walker is at a severe disadvantage in terms of the technical skill. But I also think that Jacoby is at a disadvantage because of the lack of durability, man. Like, the minute you touch this guy's chin with a big shot, you pretty much hurt him, put him on shaky legs, or knock him out. And I think if Jacoby had a good chin, this would almost be like a max bet situation on Jacoby because the guy is so good on the feet. He's got that good, just straight right hand with no tell that he knocked out Vitor Petrino with when he tried to counter with the check hook. He's got good jabs, solid low kicks. He moves around well, fakes, feints. He's got it all when it comes to striking on the feet. His takedown defense, it's not that bad either. But the forward pressure, the clinch striking, the elbows, the knees, I really think that could be a big, big problem for Jacoby up against the fence. Like, just if he's winning and then Julius Walker just makes it nasty and dirty, gets him up against the cage and starts bombing away with elbows, uppercuts, knees, and just hits him with a good shot that hits the chin in the right spot, he could win this fight by KO. And I think he could also hurt Jacoby, get on top of him, take his back, and get a win via submission. So I think the sub is live for Walker. I think the KO is live for Walker. I think this fight's live to end by split decision, and I think the KO is live for Jacoby because he's so much cleaner and sharper and more technical in the striking, which every fight starts out on the feet. I'm going to take Jacoby just because I think he has enough smarts to play this fight safe and not get put into a war, not get drawn into a brawl, and not get pushed up against the cage and, exchange in the clinch. I think he's good enough to pick him apart from the outside, use his jab, use his 1-2, move laterally, chop that calf kick, land the 1-2 down the middle, and I think eventually he will find the KO against Julius Walker. But again, would I say bet on Jacoby? Hell no. Would I say bet on this fight to not go the distance? Hell no. I wouldn't touch this fight with a 10-foot pole, even if I had $1 million at the end of that pole. I'm going to take Jacoby. I'm going to take Jacoby by a second-round TKO. I just think he's cleaner, sharper. Julius Walker has the length and reach advantage, but I think Jacoby uses his length and reach better. So it's going to actually look like Jacoby has the reach advantage by keeping him at the end of his strikes, landing the jab, landing the 1-2, landing those calf kicks, and landing the strikes in the clinch. But Jacoby could easily lose this because he could be winning clearly and get hit, get dropped, lose the rounds. He could be winning clearly, get hurt, get dropped, get submitted. So I don't trust either of these guys, but I'm going to take the guy who has more wins in the UFC, who has more experience in the UFC, and who I think can put together a better game plan, and that is the Hanyak Dustin Jacoby. So give me Dustin Jacoby to win by a second-round TKO. He's just going to be too clean and too sharp for Walker on the feet. All right, next up, we got a fight that I'm actually really excited for in the bantamweight division. You got a battle between Gene Matsumoto taking on the second half of the Basharat brothers in Farid Basharat. This is a close one, guys. I know everybody's going to be on Farid because, oh, he's undefeated, he's undefeated, he's undefeated. Matsumoto was undefeated until he ran into Rob Font. Take the records out of this. I think this fight is a close fight for 15 minutes, and I don't see a finish on either side. So at the end of the day, it's a coin flip in my opinion. I think Basharat has better footwork. He moves good on the outside. He picks his shots well, good jabs, good 1-2s. Really uses a lot of fakes and feints just like his brother to land some big shots, and he's got good grappling. He could take you down, get on top of you, look to take your back, submit you. I think there is a potential that he takes down Gene Matsumoto and controls him on the ground. I don't necessarily think he gets a submission victory. I think if he wins on the ground, it's more going to be just a positional-based decision where he'll get on his back, look to put in the hooks, land good shots, land good elbows, off of his back, pot shots with the hands like little hammer fists, put him in the body triangle, and I think he definitely has the option to control him on the ground. But if you look at the grappling stats, I mean 2.14 takedowns for Matsumoto, 3.6 for Farid Basharat. He's got a 47% accuracy to a 41% for Matsumoto. Matsumoto, 53% takedown defense, 72% takedown defense for Farid Basharat. I'm going to be honest, guys. I think this is a close fight, and I feel like that's kind of a cop-out when you break down fights. So let me give you a little bit more of a technical analysis, right? I think on the feet, I think the better boxer is Matsumoto, but I think the fighter who might put out more volume is going to be Farid Basharat. So the volume could be bigger on the side of Basharat, but I think Matsumoto could have the bigger, more fight-impacting shots, and he might look better in terms of the judging other than just the pot shots of Farid Basharat. I think obviously he can get taken down, he can get controlled, but he has good takedowns in his own right. He's got a good guillotine. I wouldn't be surprised if he snatched up a guillotine and was able to jump on the neck and submit Basharat. But at the end of the day, I expect this to be a close fight. I expect it to mainly play out in the striking, maybe takedowns at the end of rounds to seal it for Basharat, and I think Basharat would have the better control on the ground. Do I think he gets a submission? No. Do I think Matsumoto could get a submission? It's possible. I think maybe he could time the takedown attempt with a guillotine. He's got a nasty front choke. There's a potential that he could get that. But if it stays on the feet and it's mainly striking, I think it's a close fight. I think it's a coin flip, to be honest with you. I think Gene Matsumoto has good cover counters with his boxing. He's got a good left hook, a good right hand. He's got solid kicks to the body. He chops leg kicks well. He's got good pull counters. He's very clean and technical and crisp on the feet. And Basharat's also very good. I expect a lot of fakes and feints, stance changes to get the angles, stance change, pot shot, go back the other way, jab, low kick, jab, front kick, feint, change levels, push him against the fence. I think Basharat is a solid, clean, technical striker as well. At the end of the day, I think this is a close fight. And in a close fight, I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to take the over plus 230 underdog in Gene Matsumoto to win this fight by a split decision. I think he can do enough. I think he can do damage. I think he can have some success on the ground. I don't think he's going to get dominated. And if I don't think he's going to get dominated, I'm going to take a chance on him to win. And I think he definitely has more than a chance to win a close fight, which is what I expect this to be. So give me Gene Matsumoto, give me the big underdog, plus 230 to win this fight by a split decision. 29-28 split decision for Gene Matsumoto. Next fight up, we got a battle in the middleweight division between Michał Oleksiejczuk taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. Again, this is going to be another short one. I'm taking Michał Oleksiejczuk by first-round knockout. I think Barriault definitely has an advantage on the ground. I think he's got good grappling, good clinch work, good elbows, good knees in the clinch, good forward pressure. But if you're getting knocked out by Dustin Stoltzfus and, knocked out by a guy who's, yes, he's a striker, but he's not really known as a striker in the UFC, I think Michał Oleksiejczuk's going to put a hole through your head. So really, that's kind of what I see. I think Oleksiejczuk maybe he gets pressured, maybe he gets pushed back, maybe it looks like Barriault's starting to take over, and then boom, he hits him with a big shot and knocks him out. I think it plays out very similar to the Gerald Meerschaert fight. And I think Marc-Andre has more in the tank than Gerald Meerschaert, but I don't necessarily think his chin has much more in the tank than Gerald Meerschaert's. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the guy who I think is more powerful on the feet, who has a bigger finishing upside, who's improved his takedown defense and his get-up game, and who's really been able to keep the fight where he needs it in order to win. And that's Michał Oleksiejczuk. So give me Michał Oleksiejczuk by round 1 knockout. I think he hits the chin of Marc-Andre as he's trying to pressure, hurts him, puts him down, and finishes him off. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't have to be a long breakdown. This doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out thing of, oh, I think this is going to happen and this is why. I think Oleksiejczuk hits harder. I think he's improved his range management. I think he's improved his takedown defense. And I think even if they're in the clinch, as long as Barriault isn't in a full tie plum or in the body lock where you could take him down, I think Marc-Andre gets knocked out, and knocked out pretty early. So give me Michał Oleksiejczuk to win round 1 knockout over Marc-Andre Barriault. All right, next fight up in the heavyweight division, you got a battle between Jailton Almeida taking on Rizvan Kuniev. This is a close one, guys. Like, I was going back and forth because originally I thought, okay, Almeida, good takedown, good forward pressure, good clinch wrestling, can get inside and outside trips, and he does most of his successful work with the takedowns from that clinch position. So I was thinking, okay, we got to take Jailton Almeida. But at the end of the day, man, Kuniev showed good takedown defense against Curtis Blaydes. He showed a good ability to get back up to his feet. He showed a good ability to stuff the takedowns. I just worry because I think Almeida's takedowns are just different from Curtis Blaydes. And you saw Jailton Almeida take down Blaydes without any really resistance in the first round. Took him down like 3 or 4 times and just kind of ragdolled him. So I do worry about that, right, in this fight. And I think Kuniev could be taken down, could get controlled from the top, could get submitted because we don't really know what he has off of his back. We just know that he's not the easiest guy to take down. But with the inside and outside trips of Almeida, it could cause some trouble with the takedowns, and it could actually make it easier for Kuniev to get taken down because of the way he executes his takedowns. They're not traditional takedowns. But Kuniev is a solid boxer. Paired with the takedown defense, he's got a good jab, a good step-back Russian-style left hook, and he could follow it up with the right hand. He's got a good left hook right hand. He's got good timing on his knees off the level changes, good uppercuts, and he has good shot selection. And I think his cardio is pretty good. Like, obviously, in the 3rd round, he'll slow down, but if we get to the 3rd round, I would expect Almeida to probably have some success in the grappling, but not be able to get off a submission, and he's probably going to be tired in the 3rd round as well. Don't forget, this guy is coming up from the light heavyweight division, where the light heavyweights usually have much more skill and look a lot better, but then they have issues with being able to deal with the power of the heavyweights, but they win because their skill is a lot higher level. I think that Jailton Almeida is a more skilled fighter than Kuniev, but I think Kuniev, with the takedown defense, the solid boxing, the good counter striking, and the good shot selection, I think he can knock out Jailton Almeida here. And that's what I'm going to pick. I'm going to take Rizvan Kuniev to win by knockout. I know his record, 12-3, 22-4 for Almeida. Like, if Almeida takes him down and submits him, I'm not going to be surprised. If Almeida takes him down and beats him up from the top position, I'm not going to be surprised. But I just think that the power of Kuniev can shut off the chin of Jailton Almeida. And that's really what my pick comes down to. I think the power is the biggest difference. And, you know, he's not super easy to take down. He's not super easy to hold down. So I'm going to take Rizvan Kuniev. I'm going to take him by a 2nd round knockout. Maybe 1st round. You know, I'll take 1st round. Let's go crazy here. Let's take 1st round KO for Rizvan Kuniev. I like his step back left hook. I like the 3-2. I like the 1-2 down the middle. I like his straight punches. I like his timing on the knees if Almeida changes levels. And I know Almeida can be hurt with those takedown attempts and even get hurt from the takedown attempt position if Kuniev sprawls. So I'm going to take Rizvan Kuniev. I believe he's an underdog. I'm going to take him by knockout. Give me Rizvan Kuniev, round 1 KO over Jailton Almeida. Now we're at the co-main event of the evening in the flyweight division. You got a battle between Amir Albazi taking on Kyoji Horiguchi. 17-2 for Albazi, 35-5 on the side of the returning Kyoji Horiguchi. Horiguchi looked really good in his return to the UFC against Tagir Ulanbekov. We were on him in that fight as an underdog. We picked him, and weren't too sure on what the finish would be. I predicted a KO. It was pretty much a knockout if he would have just landed a few more strikes, but he decided to take the path of least resistance and hurt him and then take his back and submit him. I think that Amir Albazi just isn't the same fighter after all the surgeries. He had heart surgery and neck surgery. And he got dominated by Brandon Moreno. And Moreno is a great fighter. So I'm not taking anything away from Albazi with him losing that fight. But he basically got outclassed. And I think he looked just completely different in the return. And I think it's because of the injuries. It's because of the heart surgeries and the neck surgery. And those are two huge surgeries. So, I mean, you can't fault the guy. Like, it's not his fault that that's what happened to him. But I just don't think Albazi is going to be the same fighter. Could he take down Kyoji Horiguchi? Yes, I think he could have some success with his wrestling, with his takedowns, and that probably would be the smartest option against Horiguchi, because I think on the feet, Albazi is just outgunned in terms of the speed. He's nowhere near as fast as Kyoji Horiguchi. He has a lot of power, though, and if he can time the level changes with an uppercut, I think he could hurt Kyoji and potentially knock him out. So I think shots up the middle like knees and uppercuts are a good weapon against Horiguchi. And I think the wrestling is a good weapon as well, because we've seen Kyoji get taken down. It's just kind of hard to hold him down, if you know what I mean. I got to take Kyoji Horiguchi here, though. I think he's too fast. I think he's so explosive. He moves well. He doesn't just walk back on a straight line. He's moving laterally. He's moving in and out. He's cutting his angles. He's darting in with shots. So I think a big counter shot from Albazi could hurt Kyoji and put him down. I think a big uppercut up the middle could hurt Kyoji. But other than that, man, I got to take Kyoji Horiguchi here. I think the number's a little bit crazy. I don't know if I'd make him like a 4-1 favorite, because Albazi is good and he wins a lot of fights that we don't expect him to win. But Albazi kind of wins fights on thin margins. I mean, even when he fought Kai Kara-France, I thought Kai Kara-France won that fight. I got to be completely honest with you. I picked Kai Kara-France in that fight, and I thought he won that fight on the scorecards. But, you know, that's a story for a different time. But again, like Albazi, he finished Alessandro Costa. But look what Alden Correa just did in his UFC debut. Destroyed the legs and beat the crap out of, you know, Alessandro Costa. So in this fight, I'm going to take the favorite. I'm going to take Kyoji Horiguchi. I don't know if it's a finish or if it's a decision. I'm going to say he gets another finish here. I'm going to go with a KO this time. I think he's just too fast for Albazi. And again, if Albazi was completely healthy, maybe it would be a closer fight, because Albazi is clean. He is technical. He has good straight punches. He throws good combinations on the feet. Decent wrestler as well. But at the end of the day, like, I think Horiguchi is just too fast, too explosive, and he moves too well to get beat by a guy who plods forward and tries to land big shots like Amir Albazi. And paired in with the injuries and everything, I got to take Kyoji. So give me Kyoji Horiguchi to win. Go 2-0 since his return to the UFC. I'm going to say he wins by I'm going to say a second round TKO. I picked a lot of second rounds today, but I think I have some good reasons as to why. I think he's going to hurt Albazi and just not allow him to recover. I mean, Moreno was piecing him up, so I think Kyoji's going to beat the crap out of him. And I think Kyoji probably gets the winner of whoever Brandon Moreno is going to fight in his next fight, because it was going to be Asu Almabayev, but Almabayev pulled out. So I think Kyoji wins. I think Kyoji might get a title shot after this fight, but I think Kyoji Horiguchi versus Josh Van is a great fight. Kyoji Horiguchi versus Tatsuro Taira. I mean, there's a lot of good fights you can make with Kyoji next if he wins this fight, and I think he does, and I think he does it impressively. Give me Kyoji Horiguchi, round 2 TKO. All right, now we got the main event of the evening. This is a good Apex main event, man. A really solid fight between Mario Bautista taking on the up-and-coming rising contender, undefeated in the UFC, and Vinicius Loke-Dog Oliveira. Yeah, man, this is tough. This is a tough one to pick. A lot of people are going to be on Mario because, you know, of how good he looked against Umar and landing that knee up the middle and almost knocking out Umar Nurmagomedov. But at the end of the day, man, I think Vinicius is just a weird fight for everybody in the division. And he's going to be kind of difficult for a guy like Mario to deal with. I just got to be honest. You know, he switches his stances. He throws wide looping overhand hooks and follows it up with the same side leg kick, switches stances, throws a straight hand, moves to the other stance, left hook, knees to the body, elbows, good knees up the middle, flying knees like he caught Bernardo Sopai with. And the guy has good cardio. You know, this is a 5-round fight, so I think the championship rounds probably go to Mario Bautista. I will say that I think Mario is definitely the cleaner striker. I think he's the much better grappler as well, and it would probably be smart for him to try to look to get takedowns and control Oliveira on the ground, because if you look at the fight with Bernardo Sopai, obviously he gassed himself out, but he was about to finish him with a TKO and looking to get a submission on the ground, and he was dominating him from that top position. So, you know, I think Mario has an advantage in the grappling. I think it would be smart to go to the grappling. I also, like I said, I think he's the cleaner striker. He's got a good 1-2. He always cuts the angle. He's never moving backwards on a straight line. The only way you really ever get him to move backwards in a straight line and make mistakes is when you start to put the pressure on him and get a little wild. And that's why I think Oliveira has a chance to win here, because he is a fighter who's going to throw those wild looping punches. And yes, he could get countered. Yes, he could get hit with a big shot and countered and hurt and knocked out. 100% it could happen. But he could also put that pace and pressure on Mario and not really allow him to be as clean and technical and crisp as he normally is. So that's really what it comes down to. Do you think that the cleanliness of Bautista's striking and his footwork and his angles and the stance changes to the straight punches, moving around, jab, 1-2, feint the jab, throw the right hand, feint 2-3, feint 3-2, jab, switch stance, straight punch, jab his way out, move back the other way. Like, it's going to be hard for Oliveira to track him down, and Oliveira's going to get hit on the way in. Like, I don't think that that's any surprise to anybody. But at the same time, I think Oliveira is so wild and has so much power, and the only real way you're going to beat Mario in terms of a striking match is to hurt him and put him on the back foot and make him uncomfortable. And I think Oliveira has a style where he can do that. But in terms of a pick, I mean, I think this is a close fight too. I think a lot of people are going to die on the hill that Mario's going to outclass this kid. And he might. He might knock him out. He might take him down. He might submit him. I'm going to say I think the best bet for this fight is that the fight doesn't go to decision. So if we're looking at what I would bet on this fight, it would just be the fight to not go the distance. I wouldn't even play the under 4.5, because I think it's possible that it could be a late 5th round finish if Oliveira just gets slowed down enough to where he slows down, or if Mario is starting to slow down and Oliveira can put that pressure on him on the front foot and hurt him up against the fence with those wide looping punches with a lot of power and the uppercuts as well. But at the end of the day, if I'm picking a bet, I would say my bet would be the fight doesn't go to a decision, because I think there's a KO and a submission upside for Mario, and I think there's definitely a knockout upside for Oliveira if he's able to execute that forward pressure and trap Mario Bautista up against the choke points of the cage and up against the cage wall and make him circle into big power in those hooks, uppercuts, knees, and potentially head kicks. But in order to make a pick, like, I really don't know, guys. I got to be honest with you. Like, picking a winner, I think that this fight is very close. I'm going to take Mario just because I think he's cleaner and I think he can hurt Oliveira and find openings that maybe other fighters couldn't capitalize on. I mean, if you can hurt Umar Nurmagomedov, I think you can hurt Vinicius Oliveira, but it's a different style of fight, and you know, styles make matchups. But my bet for the fight would be fight doesn't go to decision. But my pick, I'm going to pick Mario Bautista by a 3rd round TKO. I think that he's just able to find those openings with his straight punches down the middle, and I think he hurts Oliveira and eventually finishes him off. Mario's not a knockout guy, but he definitely has the skills and the output and the snap on his punches to get a KO. I mean, he should have knocked out Patchy Mix. He should have knocked out Ricky Simone. It didn't happen. But I'm going to say he finishes Vinicius Oliveira late, but I could easily see Oliveira hitting him with a big shot and knocking him out cold. So give me Mario Bautista round 4. I'll go round 4. Round 4 TKO. I think he hits him with a straight punch and then finishes him off. But again, really close fight, but the pick's going to be Mario Bautista, 4th round TKO. All right, that's it for my UFC Vegas Bautista versus Oliveira preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell with your favorite combination. Mine would be a jab, right hand, lead hook to the liver, left rear low kick, switch stance, knee, and an elbow over the top. All right, I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.